Pinkalicious Fairy House by Victoria Kann. It was spring, my favorite season. I love how the sky looks like cotton candy at sunset. Every spring, our garden comes alive with blossoms of every color. I know why our garden is so beautiful. It's because of the fairies. Fairies come to our yard and sprinkle fairy dust to make the plants grow. I have never seen them, but I know that they are real. I can see sparkles outside my window. This spring, I had a plan. I would see the fairies. Pinkalicious, what are you doing? Asked Peter as I collected twigs and leaves. I'm making a house for the fairies to live in. Then they can live in our garden and we will be able to see them, I said. I want to see them too. Let me help, said Peter. He brought out his shell collection. Let's build the house here in the garden, I said. Fairies are sure to come this way. Piece by piece, we built a little house. I wove buttercups around the door. Peter made a pathway with his shells. Soon we had a cozy home for the fairies. I couldn't wait for them to come. Every day I watched the house from my swing. I made a pond, a boat, and even a slide for the fairies to find, but the fairies did not come. When Peter saw how sad I looked, he said, "Cheer up. The pink flower buds are blooming." But I wanted to see the fairies. Suddenly, I had an idea. Maybe the fairies only come out at night, I said. Maybe they only sprinkle fairy dust by moonlight. I told Mommy and Daddy what I wanted to do. They let Peter and me camp out to keep watch for the fairies. That evening, Peter and I spread out our sleeping blankets. I left the fairies a sweet snack of honeysuckle and berries. "Do you think they will come?" asked Peter. "Yes," I said, and added in a whisper, "I really, really hope so." We told each other stories until Peter fell asleep. As the night got darker, I heard crickets and owls, but not a single fairy. Once I thought I heard some soft, gentle humming. It was just Peter. He was snoring. I did everything I could to stay awake. I looked up at the moon. I counted the stars. I didn't want to miss the fairies. But as I counted the stars, my eyelids got heavy. I couldn't help it. I drifted off to sleep. The next thing I knew, I heard a bird singing. I opened my eyes. It was dawn. I heard hushed voices in the garden. Mommy and Daddy were looking at something together. How beautiful, they said. As I stretched, a sweet smell filled the air all around me. Colorful flowers were in full bloom. I looked at the fairy house. The honeysuckle and berries were gone. The fairies came, I cried. They came, but I missed the whole thing. Peter started to sniffle. Don't cry. Look, I said. Up in the air, I could see glimmers of light shooting across the early morning sky. Fairies, I gasped. The light shimmered brighter and brighter until it sparkled into sunshine. I knew you were real, I said. My family and I watched the sun come up. Thank you, fairies, I whispered. Wherever you were, I knew they could hear me.